Hey, Derek, you hear that?
Yeah, Ariel Armas just threw out a runner at second base to start the WCC tournament for University of San Diego.
No, did you hear the other thing? Luis
No.
Arraez just got another hit.
God, I knew it. He's only hitting .419 since coming to the Padres. I mean, that sucks.
Clockwork.
Can't believe they went and got that guy.
Absolute clockwork. What a sight to behold, especially these last couple of days. And vibes much improved from where they were last week, thanks to a couple road series victories. 2-0 in extra inning games. How about that? What a difference a year makes.
So we're gonna just dump on Bob Melvin for this whole podcast because I'm good.
No, not my intention. But I will give you the time and space to do that if you please. But a lot to be encouraged about. Got over a couple shutout losses, bounced back, one on Wednesday, gutted one out in extras, 10 innings on Thursday.
So 5-2 road trip, man. Take a 5-2 road trip any day, all day.
Any day, all day. And so we'll discuss that. We'll discuss Arraez, maybe some Jeremiah Estrada, Fernando Tatis Jr. coming through in a couple big spots, which is encouraging to see. And Yankees coming to town. Juan Soto coming to town. A lot to talk about, and we will do that over the next 45 minutes, 50 minutes or so on the On Friar podcast, brought to you by NBC7 and presented by OG's, the sponsor of the On Friar podcast. Whatever your sport of choice is, whether it be the Yankees series, whether it be where's
NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup
playoffs.
NCAA regional is going to be starting up.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, we'll have the College World Series.
Mm-hmm.
That's always
man. Don't sleep on the Toreros. I'm telling you.
Yeah, they're hot. You got a fresh piece on the web about the Toreros squad that nobody's talking about. Derek Togerson does not. Don't lump Derek Togerson in with nobody, because Derek Togerson is talking. He's banging the drum for the Toreros.
I'm a whole different kind of nobody.
But whatever your sport of choice is, OG is a great place to watch it. Tons of TVs, great menu that they are constantly updating, and an awesome beer list. So a great place to watch whatever your game, whatever your sport of choice is. And we appreciate all that OG's does for the On Fire podcast and the NBC7 sports team. Without further ado, the walk-up music. It is the On Fire podcast. He is Derek Togerson. I am Darnay Tripp. And I forgot to mention one thing that we will talk about. And it's one of my favorite games that we play every so often. Now, it's not a good thing that we're playing this game. We don't enjoy playing this game. But it comes up when certain things happen. The game is, has Derek had this injury before?
Oh, yeah. I've had a lot. I've not had the one that Xander Bogaerts has dealt with, though. This is nasty.
You have a remarkable hit rate on this game.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. And it's, labrums and rotator cuffs and elbows and hips and knees and shoulder fractures. Luckily, I will knock on wood, or Formica, whatever this table is, that is not one on the list. Man,
doesn't sound nice.
I feel for the guy. That's got to hurt.
Doesn't sound nice at all. And he told Dennis Lin he heard a few, I think, cracks, whatever it was.
4 cracks. Yeah, 4 cracks. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, and not like when you go to the chiropractor and get the good cracks in your back. These are the bad kind of cracks.
Well, you could tell by his reaction that these were not enjoyable cracks. Certainly a discouraging sight, and we will get into that. But let's start on the positive side of things. Couple wins over the Reds after the shutout loss on Tuesday. They played a doubleheader on Monday, later rival to Cincy, come out a little bit flat, back-to-back shutout losses. They shake it off, put together a 14-hit performance. I want to say, what they 7 runs, and what did they do today? What was the final score of today's game?
6-4. 6-4 and 10.
6-4. 13 runs, a bunch of hits. The only home run against the Reds off the bat of Luis Arraez, just as we all expected.
25th career home run, by the way.
So yes, a bit surprising there. Not what we expect from him, but what we do expect is him to just get knocks, and that's what he's done at a remarkable rate. I was looking it up out of curiosity, and you referenced what he's done so far in a Padres uniform. But before this 8-game multi-hit streak, he was slashing 301, 349, 370. Not bad at all. After this 8-game multi-hit streak, which now includes back-to-back 4-hit performances, he's up to 341, 382, 422. So his average is up 40 points and his OPS is up. I'm doing some quick math here, but like, I don't know, like 70 points or something like that.
Over 8 games.
Over 8 games.
That's wild.
It's pretty remarkable. Yeah, he is as persistent as they come. And it's funny, Todd asked me in last week's pod, like, what do you think of Luis Arraez? And I was kind of like, I don't know, 4-hit game to start. He had the big moment against the Dodgers, but been fairly consistent, but hadn't really kind of blown the doors off necessarily until this last week, when you get a really clear sense of who he is and what he's capable of, and just the type of spark that he can provide this lineup.
Yeah, he was still hitting well over 300 with his small Padres debut. Think about this. He's got 8 straight multi-hit games. The franchise record is 9. And that was by Gary Sheffield back in his short stint as a Padre when he was, right on the brink of winning batting titles every single year. Tony Gwynn, his career-long multi-hit streak was 8 games. During those 8 games, Tony had 20 hits. Luis Arraez has 21 hits during his 8-game multi-hit streak. It's wild. It's because every time you're like, dude, I'm not going to compare Tony to anybody. And then this guy comes up and you're like, well, there's nobody else you can possibly compare it to.
Right.
Like, it's Gary Sheffield and Tony Gwynn, and like that's it. What this guy is doing right now, it's like and he's been here for what, 3 weeks? We're already doing that. I mean, we're legitimately right now, Darnay, he is second in not just the major leagues, but in the National League, but in the major leagues in batting average.
Mm-hmm.
And he's only 13 points behind the leader in the National League. That leader, of course, is Shohei Ohtani, but we're talking about a guy who has a legitimate chance of winning a 3rd consecutive batting title with a 3rd consecutive franchise. And as you know, I mean, we saw this with Juan Soto last year. We've seen this with a bunch of guys. When you get to a new place, usually there's an adjustment period. Like you kind of get to know your new teammates, your new city. You got to, he had to bring his wife and his baby over to find a place to live, all these moving parts and things. And all it does is go out and hit 419 over a 3-week period.
Is it?
This isn't supposed to happen. So just think about what happens when he's here next year. And he's got a year of familiarity. I mean, we're talking, this is going to be that guy. And we saw it last year, at the beginning of the year with Miami, who's hitting 400 into June and July. Like that can happen now. It's truly remarkable to think that we can legitimately, without hyperbole, without, putting down the memory of one of the greatest baseball players and greatest hitters of all time,
sure,
this guy to Mr. Padre. Like it's out of this world.
And he's done what so many have struggled to do when they come over from wherever they came from, and not only continue to produce at that same rate, but to level up. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. I think Adam Frazier is the example that comes up probably more than anybody. We've talked about Mitch Moreland. There's been
Josh Bell, Brandon Drury. The list goes on and on and on.
And you could even say the same thing about Juan Soto. I mean, Juan Soto had his moments when he came over at the deadline. He had some moments, obviously, in the postseason, but a slow start to last season. And there was a lot of his time in a Padres uniform spent like, okay, when are we going to see max top level Juan Soto, the guy that commanded a $440 million offer that's seen as this generational hitter? He hasn't maybe necessarily shown up the way that we expected him to. And, obviously ended up having a really good season, but now he's on a different level beyond that now with the Yankees. As good as he was last year, it's still maybe left a bit to be desired, because you just know the potential that's there and how good he can be. And, he basically, like, the first month of last season was a complete waste. I mean, he did very little. It took him until like the end of April before he started clicking. Luis Arraez, to his credit, has come here 4-hit game right out of the chute. Not a walk-off. Was it? Yeah, it was a walk-off.
Yeah,
walk-off against the Dodgers.
Walk-off in his first home game.
I'm getting the Dodgers series confused. A walk-off against the Dodgers, and then now this streak. And any concerns about, and then he hits a home. He managed to hit a homer along the way too. So I mean, there's a knock on him in that he's not going to provide a whole lot of slug. But he's even now done that. And so I think just kind of the consistency for a lineup that is needing it, where you don't really necessarily know what you're gonna get from Manny Machado. Now, Manny Machado last week has seems to be picking it up a little bit.
Can we just avoid the double plays, Manny? Like it's a problem now. We're here to another one to end the 10th inning today. It's like it's every game he's hitting into a double play or two. Like this has got to stop.
Yeah, and just there's been a lot of inconsistency there. A lot of inconsistency with Fernando Tatis Jr. Certainly, a lot of issues hitting lefties this season because those guys, those aforementioned guys, Xander Bogaerts, obviously, like it's been a struggle. And so we've talked about it before. When you have a guy like Manny in 2022, Jurickson Profar to this point this year, now Luis Arraez, even when you're not spraying doubles and hitting homers, just keeping the line moving, getting guys on base, driving guys in, just kind of that steady heartbeat is so important for any team, but particularly this team when there can be a bit of a feast or famine element outside of, what Profar and Cronenworth, I guess, that'd be the short list, I think, have done for you to this point in the season.
His OPS is over 900 with the Padres, right? I'll take that. Heck,
Yeah.
That's how good this guy is with the bat. Is he's got one home run and an OPS over 900. And if you keep getting on base, singles will add up, doubles will add up. He's all over the place, and it's so annoying for him. You saw Frankie Montas today. After the first inning, Arraez just kind of gets down 2 strikes. He's going to fist one over the shortstop's head, and they go over to Montas, and he's smiling. He's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
I'm out of ideas. Like, just about take your cap to the guy and try and get the next dude. There's when Arraez gets in one of these grooves, man, he can be so frustrating to other pitchers because you're just going, God, how I don't know what to do anymore.
And what is that? Because like some of it almost seems like that hit you're talking about seems kind of like fluky contact almost, and if anybody else were doing that against the Padres, you'd be like, they're benefiting from batted ball luck, but he does it so often. He hits his spots that there seems to be more to it. But it's one of those things that can be like hard to quantify or explain, how he just continually like finds the gaps and maybe is just kind of have an idea of what he can hit, where he can do damage, game plan, that sort of thing. But he just has a knack for it that you just don't see with other guys, especially for a guy that doesn't hit the ball particularly hard.
Yeah, that, by the way, he does not have an exit velocity of 100 miles an hour. It's wild. He's got how many 70 something hits? Not one of them, not even an out over 100 miles an hour. The home run he hit was like 96.5. He doesn't have one over. Shohei Ohtani's got like 7 outs that are 110 plus or something stupid. Maybe that was a couple years ago or whatever it is. It's something stupid.
Yeah.
Like he just doesn't hit the ball that hard, but he always hits the ball. And as you continue to put the ball in play, as we say, good things happen, man. There are no bad hops. There are no duck snorts. There are no, ground balls with eyes when you're walking back to the dugout after strike 3. So you keep putting the ball in play and luck will favor you. He's just got to figure it out. And yeah, he's not going to be one of those, massive, 420,000 foot home run hitting guys. That's not his game. He knows that's not his game. He doesn't want it to be his game. He's leaned in completely to the antithesis of what modern day baseball is. Modern day baseball is premium on power. Strikeouts are okay. And then Arraez comes in and he's like 1985 Cardinals, like Vince Coleman and Willie McGee, just slap the ball all over Hell's Half Acre and get yourself on base and annoy pitching staffs. He's just throwback to 30, 50, 40, whatever he is years ago. And it's so much fun to watch. And what's great about him is he has not been seduced by the power gods. He's not going to try to become that guy who muscles up and goes away from his game. He's completely content and happy in doing what he does. And it's great to see, because I think baseball, there's a premium now put darn on line drives. You know, the line drives eventually will carry out of the ballpark. It's hard contact and line drives. Teams with the metrics are starting to go towards that. And he's like, guys, where have you been? I've been doing that for the last 5 years. Welcome to the club. And it's awesome to see.
The cool thing about his homer yesterday, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a cheapie. It was that'd be out in 28 out of 30 ballparks. And the two, I forget the account off the top of my head. The two it would not have cleared Coors Field and Fenway, oddly enough.
Yeah, Fenway does that from Pesky's pole, that steep shoot out to right field. Now, Coors Field is bullcrap, because remember, that ball would have flown farther at Coors Field. Yeah. You can't just take the, in Ohio, how many feet it flies versus in Denver, how many feet it's going to fly. It would have gone, that ball was gone in Denver.
But all that to say, that wasn't a cheapie. And so it gives you an idea of what he's capable of from that standpoint, which is enticing. And again, it's the consistency, it's the relentlessness, it's the competitive at bats. Everything he does seems to be competitive. He just seems generally locked in. And that's like, we'll talk about the defense too, because, we're seeing him more at second base, and you hear what people say, just kind of defensive metrics. They don't necessarily smile on the guy, but he seems enthusiastic. He seems happy to be out there. He seems to play hard. And so, it doesn't come across as a guy that just wants to go to the plate and that's it, and is disinterested out there, and it's a lack of effort or what have you. Seems like everything he does is done with kind of energy and enthusiasm, and it kind of permeates throughout the team. And the guys love, you could see them in the dugout after he went yard. Joe Musgrove, like, fired up, like he's another good vibes guy. And it's been a really fun spark plug for this team, personality wise, and then certainly what he provides for a lineup that just needs that kind of that steady consistency, that relentlessness that can be lacking at points.
You know what's cool? The Baseball Savant page, I know you like this. They have the expected home runs section. I just looked at it, and they have, like, no doubters, mostly gone, doubters, yada, yada. He has 25 career home runs. Every single one of them has been a doubter. He's all 25 home runs, 25 doubters. Like, maybe it'll go. If you look at the metrics, we're not sure if it's going to go or not.
That's
literally
funny.
All of them have been quote unquote doubters, which to me is absolutely hysterical.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yesterday was a pretty healthy blast, at least watching it, live. And whether or not Savant agrees with that based on location or what have you, would it have gone in Petco Park? I don't know, but fortunately,
But if it gets to the porch, maybe. But this is the other thing on the Baseball Savant page. This is awesome. Percentile rankings, right? Swing length, because they're doing swing length and bat speed now. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We touched on this a little bit. They now got even more metrics on here. His swing length is in the 100th percentile. It is the quickest, shortest, most compact swing in the game. So that's 100. His bat speed is 1.
Mm-hmm.
He has the slowest bat speed in baseball and the shortest swing length in baseball. And those have to correlate somehow, right? If he's got slow bat speed, he has to have a nice short stroke, because that speeds the bat up. Because his hands look nice and quick. It always looks like he's right through the zone. I guess it's because his swing is so short and quick and compact that he can make up for the fact he doesn't have that elite bat speed. But seeing that 100 red right next to the 1-0 he's like this huge dichotomy of everything that shouldn't go together, and somehow it works for him.
Yeah. Friend of the pod, Mike Petriello, wrote a piece about Rise and how he shines on some of these new metrics. And I've been wanting to actually reach out to Petriello, so hopefully we'll be able to get him on here soon. But one of the interesting things with that is, there seems to be more of a direct correlation with a lot of those metrics and the numbers you see on Savant between, like, if you do this, you'll do this well. But some of that bad information, that's not necessarily the case. And he's a perfect example because, we believe bat speed, exit velocity, hits, slug, homers, power, blah, 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 blah. And obviously we're talking about a guy with slow bat speed that doesn't hit a whole lot of homers, but he's also one of the most prolific hitters in the game. And as you mentioned, batting average, like all those numbers, he's up there, 2-time batting champ. So it's one of those things that's kind of interesting. There's not necessarily the direct correlation. He is that specific profile though, and has that specific skill set that can have success and can excel, not in spite of, but by way of, the way he swings the bat, the way he goes about his business. It's just different from everybody else. And like I said earlier, it is refreshing and it is fun and it is nice. He doesn't necessarily do a Soto shuffle, but he's kind of jittery in there and like gets amped up and enjoys kind of the competitive nature of it. And there's just a lot about Luis Arraez that makes him really fun to watch.
But I looked up his BABIP numbers to kind of see if he is one of those, like, okay, kind of gets,
is he due for a drop off?
gets lucky, in those types of things. What's he hitting right now overall?
341.
His BABIP number this year is 349. So it's like he's damn right there. He's just like a metronome right there. Just putting balls in play, and he's doing it the right way. There's no luck factor involved in what this guy is doing right now.
Yeah. And hey, credit to AJ Preller. We can't have this conversation rave about him without tipping the cap to AJ.
Mm-hmm.
This appears to be another AJ masterclass, and some of this will be determined by what this team accomplishes, what happens contractually down the road, and where those prospects end up. And so it's too early to tell, but first blush, he's been a really nice addition to this lineup. Now they are still kind of floating around 500 and struggling to really get and stay above 500. So it's not like this is like a completely different club, and that's not all on Luis Arraez. But offensively, the steadiness, the consistency seems to have been an asset, and it certainly was the last couple of days where they strung a bunch of hits together, and he was often involved, even down to the end.
It's just, it's fun, man. This is just watching this guy here is so much. I'd watched him a little bit when he was with Minnesota and a little bit when he was with Miami. And it's to see it every day and to see the process of, like Mike Shildt said after the game on Thursday, is like, the guy's a genius. He's just
a magician on Wednesday.
Yeah. He's a genius magician. He's a batting average savant. There's so few of these guys like this nowadays that I hope there are more coming, because this is just so much fun to watch.
So the Baseball Savant page should just be a picture of Luis Arraez.
Yeah, exactly. Just call it the now Luis Arraez numbers compilation site.
So all very positive, very good. 5-2 road swing. Luis Arraez shines. Hits up and down the lineup. Fernando Tatis Jr., again, still not looking super Bebo-y. We're kind of waiting for that guy to come around. And, he sounded like a guy in spring training that was ready for that sort of kind of breakout return to form season. It hasn't happened. There's been some at-bats that don't necessarily look great. But, yesterday on Wednesday, he starts that little rally they had in, what was it, the 6th or 7th, back-to-back hits, RBI knocks with him, Profar, and Cronenworth. And you're like, okay, that's what we want to see, especially in that spot where, a lot of guys have struggled, and Tatis being one of them. And then again today, driving in runs. And so he's an interesting case. Early in the season, it seemed like some of that batted ball luck was not in his favor, scorching a lot of baseballs, not getting a whole lot out of it. And now he's had this lull where you're like, what is, how's he feeling? You can sometimes tell when you watch Fernando Tatis Jr. how he's feeling. Kind of the energy and the joy hasn't necessarily been there. Shildt, complimentary about him and the at-bats that he's had, as you expect Mike Shildt to be the eternal optimist that's always looking for an opportunity to pump his guys up. But, hopefully a couple games where he's got some productive at-bats and some critical at-bats can get him going a little bit, because that, significantly alters the complexion of this team when you have, an MVP level Fernando Tatis Jr.
Well, he's been doing what we always say that he does. He's hunting home runs, and you can't do that. What do you do today? Right? 2 strikes, 10th inning. He's down 2-2. He's like, listen, I just got to get the bat on the ball. What's he do? Nice short compact swing, hits one on the barrel, hits a rocket shot down the left field line. That's a double, drives in the go-ahead, what would turn out to be the winning run, right? But what's going to happen now is he has that one really great at-bat, and you see him pumping his fist to second base, and he gets into it. Now I can guarantee you, he's going to come back against the Yankees, against them on a big stage, and start trying to hit the ball over the left field scoreboard at Petco Park. And then eventually he'll say, okay, I got to shorten up a game because I just got to get on base. And he'll sting a few balls 100+ miles an hour all over the ballpark and go, oh, yeah, I'm back, and start hunting home runs again. If he can stay out of here, Toddy's worst part is the 6 inches between the ears. Because if he can just, he's turning into like the offensive version of Blake Snell. You're so damn talented. Get out of your head. Start swinging the bat like Luis Arraez does. All right. Because he is so strong. And as we said, this innate ability to barrel baseballs, just do that. That home run that he hit against the Dodgers, where he just reached out and flicked his wrists, and it was gone to right center field. You're just going, whoa. Okay. Do that all the time. Just nice and short and compact and right on top of everything. He starts getting so long and violent with his swing that it doesn't work. Man, we saw this when he was a rookie, when he was just trying to make a name for himself, hitting 317, just hitting lasers all over the place, hitting 480-foot bombs at Wrigley Field, because he's just being him. Now he's trying to live up to the contract and the hype and trying to help his team win so bad. It's all based on trying to be the best version of himself and help his team win. But he's got to stop, man. Rein it in a little bit, because when he reins it in, he's unstoppable.
And some of it has just been like, he gets a slider low and away, he's going to go fishing. And some of it has just kind of been predictable from that standpoint. It's like, okay, when are we going to kind of figure this out? And I looked out of curiosity, like strikeout rate and how often he's reaching and that sort of thing. And, it seemed sort of consistent with, what he'd done last year. It didn't seem like there was a major spike, but when you watch him, he just seems so prone to reach for pitches low and away. And, over the course of his last 15 games, hitting 241, like not a terrible average, 333 on base, 644 OPS. Typically, if Fernando Tatis Jr. has a 15-game stretch where he's got 14 hits, not a ton, but he's consistently getting knocks, there's a few doubles. In this case, there's one homer. There's a few homers you expect to be in there. And so the OPS goes up. Obviously, the slug's up. And what he's able to provide for this team is a lot greater. That's been really, I don't know, it's a little bit concerning, the fact that we're not seeing these stretches where like he is that type of dynamic Fernando Tatis Jr. We even saw it last year, the Yankees game, 2 home runs. Like he's got that in him. We've seen it. And I want to say he had a multi-homer game. Who did he have that against this year? I thought there was one. Yeah, it was against the Giants early in the season.
Yeah, there was early in the year. Yes, it was on a Friday night game. Yeah,
first series at Petco Park. So he's done it. But again, there's going to be those questions, and there were conversations and pieces written about like, okay, what should you expect from a player coming off the procedures and the time off? And that seemed to be kind of in line, where you're still talking about an above average baseball player. This is not a bad baseball player. He's got an OPS plus of 117. But this is a guy that had an OPS plus of, what was it? 166 in 2021, 156 and 154 beyond that. It was 112 last year. And again, he sounded pretty confident about where he was at and the work that he got in during the offseason with his dad playing winter league ball. We still could see it, obviously. it's still relatively early. And again, it's not like it's been a disastrous season. But when the bar is so high and when you know what he's capable of and when you know what he can do for this lineup, it's hard to kind of make peace of and make sense of what we're seeing to this point.
Because we're seeing nothing at this point, and that's a problem. We're seeing nothing. He's too good. He's got 2 home runs in May, Darnay. 2 home runs in May. He might get out homered in May by Luis Arraez.
He's halfway there.
Seriously, I'm not kidding. Like, that sounds like no, I'm literally not joking. That is now a legitimate. We're at May 20. What's today? May 23rd. Yeah, we're May 23rd. There are 8 days left in May. Well, 7 after this, and Fernando Tatis Jr. is in danger of being out homered by Luis Arraez. And maybe Xander Bogaerts, who only has 1 shoulder.
Well, at least we know Xander's not going to add to that total. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to watch at points when, again, the at-bats aren't great and it doesn't seem like he's having a ton of fun. And you just kind of wish there was, like, we're kind of at a point now with his kind of where he's at in his career. What is this, season 6 for him? He's been through a lot where, like, we just need to see the steadiness from you. And like, it shouldn't be as easy to sometimes read, like, body language, how he's doing. Right. Like, you could just watch him in a game, not know anything about, like, the week before, and probably have a decent sense of, like, what that week's been like, and it'd be nice to get to a point where, there aren't the low lows. There isn't such kind of clear, like, discouragement when things aren't going well, because that seems to be something that still, he kind of wrestles with and hasn't really grown out of yet.
Yeah, he's 25, and that I still want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, dude, okay, he's 25. Like, I was emotional when I was 25 too, but at the same time, you've been in the major leagues now for a long time. Like, this is you're not a newbie anymore in Major League Baseball. You should have figured out by now the ebbs and flows of this game and how being overly emotional on a day in, day out basis does not work. You can't do that over a 6-month season. You can't survive that way. So yeah, do I want to think, okay, hey, he's still a kid, he's still emotional. It's like there's going to be an element of that in there. Yes. And I don't want him to completely lose it, because that's part of what makes him great. But he's got to temper it and management a hell of a lot better than he has been. And I would have hoped he would have learned that by now.
And, you got to keep in mind, he's had 4 managers in 6 years. How many?
Yeah, but does Andy Green really count?
How many hitting? Well, yes, because that was his first manager, and these are the guys that are supposed to help you grow.
But that's not his fault.
Well, no. What I'm saying is that hasn't.
No, I was making fun of Andy Green. I got you.
That hasn't served Fernando Tatis Jr. well, having that lack of stability, and the time to be able to develop that relationship with somebody where they can kind of push you along and challenge you in certain ways and guide you and earn that trust and all the things that come with, like, a strong, sturdy relationship. Who knows? I don't know that necessarily plays into it, but that can't help, especially when you're down and you're struggling a little bit. Like, this is just another guy. This is just another guy, the latest guy that's trying to help me out. That is my manager, hitting coach, and hopefully the relationship is great. But it's not like, yeah, this guy's been with me since day one. He knows me. He's seen me through some things. He's helped me out. I trust him. I believe in him. Again, I don't know that has anything to do with this, but I got to think.
Isn't that what his dad does?
Well, and that thought crossed my mind. His dad is that guy, but wouldn't you want to have a guy like that in your clubhouse as well? I mean, that would seem helpful. That's with you every single day, that can talk to you between at bats through the course of the game. And there's no reason to think that he doesn't have a good relationship with Victor Rodriguez and Mike Shildt. But there's not going to be that same bond that you would have with a guy that has seen you through all of this stuff, and you have that kind of longevity and track record with.
Yeah, it's in the clubhouse with you every single day. Yeah, that does make a difference. Yes. And it's not. I think it's not mechanical with him. That's the problem. It's you can look at video, you can look at the iPad, you can go through Stink, you can get ready, go through scouting reports. It's all in the head. Don't go after sliders down and away. If you see spin out here and it starts in the middle of the plate, don't swing.
Just lay off.
That's a lesson he should have learned by now. That's all up here. And that's somebody who's, I don't know if it's a sports psychologist. I don't know if it's simply like a calming mentor position, which is what you might be referring to. I don't know what it takes.
One question I did have from the mechanics, and I'd have to go back and look, but we haven't been seeing the two-handed finish, right? It's been kind of back to the one-armed finish.
He's made contact enough for us to really look for it.
And there was something about that two-handed finish. I mean, it seems to kind of, shorten things up a little bit. And I'm probably reaching a little bit. But that was kind of one of the questions when he was going through the shoulder stuff in 2021. If he changes that up, how will that go? And he did pretty darn well with both hands on the bat. And so this is kind of a dumb out of left field idea, but maybe going back to that technique, that method would do him some good. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the finish is part of the swing. It's an important part of the swing. And yeah, granted, it's after the ball has already left the bat, but still, very few guys like Chase Utley had success with a very abbreviated finish. Some guys, the finish gets really big because the swing is really big. So it's, there might be something to that. Maybe if he does, because remember he was doing the two-handed finish, and then it kind of became like a hybrid where it was like sometimes he'd finish with one. If it was reaching to get an outside pitch or something, like he would do the one-handed finish. But if it was something he was, middle in, he would finish with two. And now it's
just it though. That's just it. If you have to reach, then maybe you should be laying off that pitch anyways. Only swing at pitches that you could comfortably hit with a two-armed finish. I guess, I think that's essentially what I'm getting at is again, would that essentially cause him to shorten his swing, which seems like, again, to the point that you made earlier, would do him some good?
Possibly, yeah, because you're not supposed to reach for an outside pitch. You're supposed to keep the same swing because you alter your timing. This isn't a perfect hitting world, right? Because the plate is here, right? This is the front of the plate. So you hit a pitch on the inside out in front of the plate here, right? Pitches in the middle, you hit here. Pitches that are outside, you wait and hit back here because your swing is going to cover the entirety of the plate just at different times. So an outside pitch, you're keeping the same swing. You're just picking it off the barrel and hitting it back here so it goes the other way. In the middle, you're hitting it directly out in the center field. And then when it's inside, your swing naturally comes through. And as you roll your wrist here, you're able to hit the ball and pull it this way, right? That's kind of how the perfect swing works. It's the same swing every single time. You're just picking the ball up, opposite field, up the middle, pull. So you shouldn't have to ever deviate your swing. Again, that's in a perfect world. Then you start adding spin to this equation. And yes, sometimes the optics tell you I have to get out a little bit farther and try and reach out and get that pitch. So we're talking about what should be happening versus what actually happens in real life. And maybe Toddy just needs to say every single time, we're full speculation mode here, but that's where I like to live anyway. Yeah, keep the two-handed finish, alter the timing of the swing because he's got the ability to drive the ball out to right field. We've seen it. He's just not doing it consistently enough. So yeah, shorten up the swing and see what you can do with it. Try the two-handed finish consistently. You
just went like full Tommy Mansky on us there with your hitting instruction.
Yeah, actually, I saw Adrian Gonzalez, and I'll go back to that again, teaching that to kids. And it was like a very simple way of saying it. Like you keep the same swing every time. Don't worry about reaching. Don't worry about pulling your, sometimes you have to pull your hands in because you get fooled. Yes. And that's when you start altering the swing. And that's what the really great ones do. Pull the hands in. I wasn't quite sure it was going to be inside. Still get the barrel on the ball. This is in a perfect world. The swing is a metronome. It stays the same. You simply alter the timing of when you throw your hands to be able to get to different parts of the plate because you should have full plate coverage with your swing naturally.
He's been pitched 24% of the time, low and away. Swings by zone, higher number low and away than anywhere else. So some of this kind of bears that out, and that's been the bugaboo for him, like from the very beginning. and there's a lot of scouting and information out there
Mhm.
at this point, and people seem to be kind of taking advantage of that at this point. And
Well, he's
and
getting sliders down and away and fastballs in and up.
yeah,
That's the book on him. He's not going to get to the fastball up and in because he's going to try and hit it too hard, and he's going to chase the slider low and away. And that's the second he shows that he's not going to do that anymore. He's a very dangerous man.
is Xander Bogaerts really coming back in like 2 months? What did he tell Dennis Lin? He hopes it's 1 month. Now I don't know the bones. It's a different deal than a ligament. Obviously, no surgery, got to heal, pain tolerance. It's kind of all that type of stuff. And then a guy that's already been struggling, like how does he make it through that? How much of an issue will that be hitting? I mean, with this motion, does this cause issues? What does it do for him in the field? Obviously, having to make more plays. I mean, like with Tatis and his shoulder, it's like all the different ways. One of the times he hurt it was on a slide, having kind of get his arm stuck behind him a little bit. It's disappointing. It's discouraging. You hate it for Xander because he works hard and he's already been through it this season. It's weighed on him a lot, and so now he's dealing with this and all that. It's tough. It's tough. And fortunately, they got Donovan Solano, they got Luis Arraez, they've got some guys that can kind of, whether it's DH or, filling out positions in the infield that can kind of do that. And as people have told me, it's not like they're missing a whole lot in the lineup just based on what he's produced to this point. But with Xander Bogaerts, you can always say, well, if he gets going, if it finally comes around, the ceiling is much higher for there than it is with a Tyler Wade, Donovan Solano. The power, over a Luis Arraez, you would think, again, theoretically, if he is the guy that we expected him to be, the guy that he was the first month and the last month of last season. But this is a tough situation. And with the Padres, these injuries, even with Manny Machado, like the idea was, oh, he'll be back. He might even be in third base to start the season. And we get a month in the season, month and a half. And Manny's saying, well, elbow's still kind of holding me back. There's some things I can't do, yada, yada. And so I think fans in particular, they hear these initial reports and projections. And Mike Shildt said, hey, I'm not a big timeline guy. Like they're not putting anything on it yet. Bogaerts is being optimistic when talking about a month, and maybe it's 2 months, but I think we've all been around enough to understand that these things tend to linger longer than initially projected. Hopefully that's not the case.
Well, this is an impact injury. So it's one of those, like, this is a fluky, freaky kind of thing where Tatis' shoulder had a problem since he was a teenager, right? Yeah. Manny had surgery. So it's something, it takes longer sometimes for those times. You're talking about a joint, like it's you going in there, you're talking about ligaments and tendons, all this kind of different stuff. And those are a little bit more cranky than other stuff. This is a bone fracture, right? As long as it's not any other structural stuff going on there, like you did in the back the labrum or the rotator cuff or anything else going around, any of the supporting musculature, didn't tear a deltoid or anything or an upper pectoral, then you're talking about this. It's just then how fast does the bone heal? So I would tend to think he will be back within 2 months because bones do tend to go a little quicker than other things do, which is, I think, probably good because I also think maybe I'm being the eternal optimist and I've listened to Mike Shildt too much, but this might be not the best thing. This might be a blessing in disguise for Xander Bogaerts because I think he just needs to save himself from himself. I see him after a bad game on a Friday night at 10:30 on the cages underneath Petco Park, still hitting off the batting tee, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. I think he has worked himself so hard, worked himself to the bone to try and fix this that he needs to be removed from the game for a little while and then come back. And maybe he'll be Xander Bogaerts after he gets back. Again, with him, and we've talked about on, group text threads, like he's not getting his foot down. He's not getting his foot down. He starts getting his foot down. Oh my God, he starts hitting like Xander Bogaerts. And all of a sudden he's not getting his foot down again. Like, I think he just needs to remove himself from all baseball things, recenter himself from a mental standpoint. Now, maybe when he comes back, he misses the game so badly, he becomes Xander Bogaerts again and just starts having fun. The game hasn't been fun for him for a long time now. Probably since the end of last year. this game is supposed to be fun. If he's not having fun playing it, he's not going to be any good for anybody. So maybe he'll come back and like, man, I just missed a month and a half, 2 months of this game I love. I'm just going to come back and say, screw it. I'm being Xander Bogaerts and having fun. And he turns back into Xander Bogaerts. That's what I'm hoping that's best case scenario. I'm hoping that's what happens here.
What do you hope happens in the field? Because the first few games, it was Luis Arraez. And then in Thursday's finale, Jake Cronenworth moves over to second.
There you go. That's what I like. Leave Arraez at first or at DH and put Jake Cronenworth at second. Jake Cronenworth is a Gold Glove caliber. He could catch. Jake can be a Gold Glover anywhere on the infield or in the outfield. He's that good defensively. Leave him at second base. Arraez handles first base probably better than he is at second base, although he's not a great defender anywhere. But if you leave him a designated hitter when Manny is actually able to be out in the field, you can put a guy like David Peralta over there, who's I think an underrated addition to this ball club. He's a veteran guy, great dude in the clubhouse, going to give you veteran at bats. He had 3 knocks on Thursday, kind of, lost in the shuffle of all this. He went 3 for 4. He's already making an impact on this ball club and everybody loves him. Donovan Solano can play first base. You got a left-right platoon right there at first base. Jake is really, really, really good at second base. I like that defensive lineup for a while. Plus, they gave you Tyler Wade is still off the bench, who's proven to be a good all-around player. He's also made enough errors to make me think he's not an everyday guy. You can get him out there for stints, but you don't want him handling any position for a long-term type of solution. Kim at short, Manny at third, Jake at second, platoon the guys at first, and you're off and run. Even Profar can play out there if you want to put Peralta out and left.
As long as there's some consistency and continuity there, I think, I get concerned about it all just kind of being a shuffle and you destabilize certain positions in an attempt to kind of firm up an answer somewhere else.
You're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah. And so as long as there's some continuity there, I can get behind that idea. If every day is a shuffle, and Jake is bouncing between second and first, I feel maybe not so good about that. Now I think he's talented enough. He can pull it off. But I think there is something to be said for, there's probably one of these positions that you're going to look at as like, maybe a bit of a question mark. There could be some adventurous moments there. That's probably going to be the case regardless, whether it's Luis Arraez playing second with Jake at first or vice versa. But that's one thing I'll be curious about going forward is just how much consistency there is with like where those guys are.
Yeah, and Shildt has even said like we're figuring this out as we go.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's gonna be I think a lot of matchup type stuff. I like the pieces that they have to be able to pull it off though, which is cool. Plus, I just like seeing a dude who's like 5'8", 5'9" playing first base in Luis Arraez. Like that's something you just don't see anywhere. It's awesome.
Yes, indeed. 2 last things before we go. Jeremiah Estrada, your setup guy for Robert Suarez. Just last week, we were talking about, I think Todd and I were talking about bullpen situation. Maybe it was a couple weeks with you. Enio de los Santos had, kind of a tough stretch. And
by the way, I did not know that was Spanish for can't hold a lead. I gotta brush up on my Espanol.
It might be six inning guy now at this point. What was it? Yuki
that's where he was today.
Yeah, Yuki in the 7th. He started the 6th. Yuki was kind of the bridge. Estrada 2 innings, the 8th and 9th, and Suarez the 10th. But it looks like after going weeks, kind of wondering, okay, how's this gonna sort itself out? Do we have defined roles? Who's your setup guy? Jeremiah Estrada looks like a pretty darn nasty setup guy now that the results and the performance are kind of matching the stuff and the potential.
He's a high spin rate guy, which is nice. He throws hard. He didn't throw as hard as Suarez, but who does? He's a guy who offers a different kind of fastball because it's one of those, high speed's got the late ride on it, which is really, really nice. I mean, he threw 2 innings. He gave up 1 hit and struck out 5. I mean, that's, you get 5 of the 6 outs that you get and only give up 1 base runner because of punch outs. I'll take that dude any day. We only 30 pitches doing it. He's been tremendous. I think. Now he is bam. There's your 8th inning guy, which, I mean, that has got to just make Mike Shildt breathe a hell of a lot easier because now you don't have to worry about matchups. You know, you can just do, here we go. This is my 8th inning guy. This is my 9th inning guy. 2 innings now I know I've got taken care of unless somebody's down for that day because they threw 2 or 3 days in a row. Then you got to kind of go with what you've got there. But knowing what you've got for those last 2 innings when you got a lead in the game, that is so much easier for a manager.
And not saying he won't do that, but Shildt also seems like a bit more of a tinkerer than we saw with Bob Melvin. And like he has a lot of guys end 1 inning, start another. He flipped Suarez and Estrada. What was it, last Friday? First game against the Braves.
Absolutely loved that.
And it worked out great. Good on him. I'm not ready to assume that Shildt will just like, they're locked in 8th and 9th. Obviously, he'll take the 8th as a save type of situation as he did when necessary, but he's just still kind of figuring out how he maneuvers a little bit with the bullpen. He's a guy that will obviously multiple innings as we saw today, so it'll be an interesting thing to watch. But super encouraging, the development of Jeremiah Estrada. All right, before we go, Juan Soto, Petco Park. New York Yankees. It's going to be, I'm sure something's going to be said, Friday over the course of the weekend, whether it's about Juan or somebody else. The reception that he gets, obviously he got traded, so it's not like he said, screw you, San Diego, get me out of here. But we kind of knew how things were going to go. And there's been kind of these wisps. There hasn't really been firm reporting. Hey, maybe there's like an athletic piece or your boy Bob Nightingale or somebody puts out something about the disaster that was last year and how Juan Soto contributed to it. We've heard people kind of hint at it, but not necessarily address it head on, how that situation kind of led to some of the issues in the clubhouse. So I'm very, very interested. And obviously there's just kind of what does he do? Does he homer at Petco Park? Will Michael King? No, Michael King threw yesterday, so we probably won't see, Michael King, Juan Soto head to head. King, who's been, liable to give up some bombs. If he gives up a homer to Juan Soto, there's your narrative right there coming off the trade. So there's just a lot of different kind of layers to the onion with him coming back, just in terms of his reception, questions that will be asked about last year and why things didn't work out. And then obviously he's having a monster season. And does that continue at Petco Park? He's going to be motivated. The Soto shuffle is going to be out there. And how do the Padres respond to that? This is a team that seems to respond well when it's a hyped up game, when the lights are bright, quality team. So it'll be fun to watch.
Well, the Padres are 14-10 against teams with winning records. Here's the problem. They're 13-16 against teams with losing records. So they're like bizarro world Padres right now.
Yeah.
They're also 17-10 on the road, but 10-16 at home. But they got home series win over the Dodgers and the Cubs, who are both in the playoff hunt. So it just, I don't know. I don't get this team. I don't understand. I don't think I want to get this team. I just want to see some wins. Yeah, all I know is, Juan Soto is a really good baseball player. He's a really good offensive threat. And when he comes to Petco Park, he's just another douchebag in pinstripes that the Padres have to try and deal with. That's it. Now he's just a Yankee. And there's nothing else other than that. Other than he's from that annoying fan base with that annoying jersey that's going to come in here and try and win another series. That's literally all he is. Is he really good? Yes. Is Jesus coming to the plates? No. So I think, pump the brakes on everybody trying to overly boo the Soto shuffle. Just get him out like you have to get everybody else out and go score some runs.
Darvish, Cease, and Musgrove.
You on a 25 games or 25 inning scoreless streak. I like that matchup.
You've been awesome. Cease, not super CC his last time out, has had a couple like solid but not ace Cy Young caliber type of performances. And Joe, an abbreviated appearance in his first game back from the IL. So you've got your big three right out of the gates, or lined up this weekend to take on Soto and the Yankees. So there's going to be a moment, something's going to be happened, something's going to be said. I'm just very curious how this all and interested to see how this all plays out.
Well, listen, I mean, we're completely. This series is like the appetizer to the Luis Arraez Marlins Revenge series coming up right after that.
Yeah, what does Skip say? What does Skip say about Luis, and what is said in the clubhouse? What does Luis say about the Marlins? Who is even in that? I know Dylan Head doesn't play for the Marlins. I forget now who else was in that that trade for Arraez. What is Ryan Weathers? Is Ryan Weathers lined up? Ryan's had a pretty good season.
Ryan has been pretty good, actually. I saw him against the Dodgers. He looked okay a little bit ago.
So between Luis Arraez and Ryan Weathers, is that actually a juicier, sexier series than Juan Soto coming back, return to Petco Park? Usuck go. Are we going to say Usuck go? I don't think so. Jacob Marcy, Nathan Martorella. Yeah, so nobody of any real consequence at this point. But
are any of those guys with the big league club? Is Usuck go up?
I would have to check the Marlins roster, and I will do that to let you know. But I would guess no, given the way things have gone for him. No. And I guess Marcy, if you had to guess, like who would be of the position player guys. When did Weathers last pitch? Weathers last pitched May 20th. So he might be this weekend.
Yes. He would probably be Sunday, depending on the schedule.
Yes, Sunday at Arizona. Yeah. So, well, we'll just miss Ryan Weathers. What about
Boo! Where's Garrett Cooper these days? Can we get Garrett Cooper to talk about this series?
Garrett's a great interview. I enjoyed having Garrett in the clubhouse. Garrett
was awesome. No, seriously, he really was.
Garrett was a good guy. All right, so it'll be, Derek will have you covered through the weekend on NBC 7. Whatever Soto does, whatever the Padres do, whatever pops up, and Sports Wrap. I'm sure you or Todd will be out there on Sunday to wrap up the weekend series. So a lot to be excited about and a lot to look forward to. And I'm sure there will be a lot to discuss when we're back with you next Thursday.
3 more sellouts at Petco.
3 more sellouts at Petco. That's right. Stack them up. I don't know if they're going to get to the number that they're at last year. I feel like they're a hair behind the pace from a year ago.
The newly expanded Gallagher Square, they might make up for that.
It's been cool to see. They've been packing it in there. Good stuff. All right. Catch you next time. See you, everybody.